When you look at someone, you often feel you can tell who they really are, whether they carry kindness or something darker. We believe the truth shows itself in the eyes from the very first glance. But what if a man could embody both sides? What if his true nature was never clear, no matter how closely you looked? This may not make sense yet. So let's begin the story where it truly starts, at the very beginning. It all began with a loving couple, Gabriel and Teresa Capone. Like many ordinary Italians of the time, they dreamed of leaving everything behind and traveling to the United States in pursuit of the American dream, hoping to become part of something greater than themselves. Their journey took them from Naples, Italy, to New York. Poverty followed them closely, threatening to break them at every step. Yet they remained convinced that America would one day make them wealthy. They were only two travelers among thousands heading toward the new world. Some arrived as workers and farmers, others as convicted criminals fleeing their pasts in Italy. Different paths, different morals, but all of them shared one belief: the American dream could be achieved, each in his own way. Gabriel found work in a barber shop, doing whatever he could to earn enough money to support his wife and children. Teresa refused to remain idle. She learned sewing and worked relentlessly to help keep the family afloat. Despite living in the heart of Brooklyn, then considered a capital of crime, they were both convinced that survival depended on staying away from trouble as much as possible. And here, a troubling question began to emerge. Who truly deserved to build the American dream? Was it the honest workers and farmers, or the Italian mafia rising quietly within America? At first glance, the answer seems simple. Yet for American politicians, it was anything but. The question was never about who was good and who was evil. The real question was far more dangerous: who would rule and whose justice would be enforced? Amid all this turmoil, on January 17, 1899, the couple welcomed their fourth child into the world. His name was Alphonse Capone, later known to history as Al Capone. From an early age, Al was deeply attached to his family. He was known for his sharp intelligence and quick wit, yet there was something unusual about him, considering his roots. Al saw himself as a true American. He despised being labeled Italian and rejected the idea entirely. In his mind, he belonged to a struggling family that came to America to achieve a greater dream, the dream of building a powerful nation founded on solid pillars. This belief would later grow into a deep psychological conflict that followed him throughout his life. Al Capone entered school and excelled remarkably. However, despite his brilliance, he was expelled at the age of 14. The reason was shocking. Al was violently aggressive, so much so that one day, he physically assaulted a teacher. That incident sealed his fate and ended his education permanently. At that point in his life, Al Capone's soul was torn between two destinies: a sharp, curious mind hungry for knowledge, and a rebellious, violent spirit raging against the society and system that had cast him out. And unfortunately, fate would choose the darker path. At that time, a pivotal figure entered Al Capone's life, the man who would later become the gateway to his criminal rise, and the one who opened the doors of the mafia to him wide open. His name was Johnny Torrio. Torrio was not an ordinary gangster. He was the leader of a powerful criminal organization, rivaling gangs like the James Street Boys. But more importantly, Torrio was a man with vision. He saw in Al Capone something rare, a raw core capable of elevating the criminal underworld to unprecedented heights. To Torrio, Al was more than a recruit. He was a son. Patiently, persistently, Torrio tried to convince Alphonse that he was standing on the wrong side of reality, that the world was not ruled by morality, but by power. Like Capone, Torrio was of Neapolitan origin, a gangster who had fled Italy and rebuilt himself in America, and he wanted to leave a legacy. That legacy would be Capone. Torrio dreamed of shaping Al into his successor, the future leader of his empire, and in doing so, he succeeded. At just 17 years old, Al Capone embraced Torrio's vision, a decision that would change the course of his life forever. At the beginning of Al Capone's criminal life, Johnny Torrio sent him to work at one of his well-known establishments in Brooklyn, a bar called the Harvard Inn. At the time, Capone had no idea that this single step would cost him dearly. One day in 1917, while Capone was working as a waiter, a young woman entered the bar. Capone noticed her, and like many men of that era, he tried to flirt. Back then, such behavior was common and often welcomed. This woman did not seem like an exception, but Capone was wrong. She was Lena Galaccio, the sister of the gangster Frank Galaccio. Frank soon arrived to defend his sister's honor without hesitation. He attacked Capone, stabbing him 3 times in the face. Capone survived, but the scars remained. Those scars would mark him for life, branding him as an Italian mafia gangster. The very identity Capone had spent his life trying to escape. Despite everything, Capone did not seek revenge. The leaders of the mafia ruled that Frank Galaccio had been justified in his actions, and Capone accepted their judgment. What happened next was unexpected. Not only did Capone forgive Frank, he later befriended him and eventually appointed him as his personal bodyguard. This moment revealed something important about Al Capone. He believed deeply in honor. He respected family loyalty. Capone later said that if he had been in Frank's place, he would have done the same. To Capone, Galaccio's act was not betrayal, it was courage. And years later, when Capone began building his own criminal empire, that same man who scarred his face stood at his side. Throughout his life, Capone carried a deep sense of shame over his scars. Whenever a photograph was taken, he carefully turned his face to hide the left side, so the marks would not be seen. To the press, Capone invented a different story. He claimed the scars were war wounds, injuries he had suffered while fighting in World War I, despite the fact that he had never served in the army. Capone despised the nickname Scarface. He forbade those close to him from using it. Instead, they called him Snorky, a word that meant the well-dressed man. A name far more fitting to the image he wanted the world to see. It was from that moment on that Capone truly understood the power of stories, not just to explain the past, but to shape public emotion and control how the world perceived him. In 1917, Capone met the woman who would later become his lover and lifelong partner, May Coughlin. May came from a middle-class Irish Catholic family, a background considered slightly more refined than Capone's Italian immigrant roots. At the time, their meeting was pure chance. Both attended a large party in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. It was Capone's mother who had arranged the encounter. Knowing May through the church, Capone fell in love with May at first sight. May was 2 years older, born in 1897, a fact they would later hide on their marriage documents. They married on December 30, 1918, at the Church of St. Mary Star of the Sea, just 3 weeks after the birth of their first and only child, Albert Francis Capone. Despite the beginnings of their relationship being unconventional, their parents eventually approved the marriage, even though Capone was still technically underage, though he had already become accustomed to a life of crime. Capone decided to take a lawful path for his wife and child. He moved to Baltimore, working as an accountant at the ILO construction company, managed by Pitt ILO. From this job, Capone learned the importance of elegance, a suit and tie every morning, routine office work, and precise handling of accounts. Though he never completed formal education, Capone excelled at numbers. It is said he learned bookkeeping and accounting from Johnny Torrio, who remained in close contact with him. For a time, Capone lived a respectable, lawful life until the unexpected happened. On November 14, 1920, Gabriel Capone died of a sudden heart attack. He had been the last barrier preventing heir from returning to a life of crime suddenly. Without warning, Capone found himself responsible for his wife, son, mother, and siblings. The modest salary of an accountant was not nearly enough to support them all at the same time. Johnny Torrio sent him an invitation and offer to join his gang after moving to Chicago. Under pressure and searching for an escape from the monotony of office life, Capone accepted Torrio's offer. In early 1921, Capone relocated to Chicago with his family. This marked the beginning of the life we now know as Al Capone's legacy, a life filled with power, infamy, and memories that would follow him until his death. Within just 2 years, Capone was no longer a small-time gangster. He rose to become the second in command of the entire organization. Among those who knew him, Capone had a reputation, half criminal, half gentleman. Through remarkable skill in hiding his true nature, he managed to serve as a double-faced figure, respected by both the underworld and polite society. But Capone understood something crucial. Just as he had earned public respect through the story of his war scars, he now needed a new story. One that would renew sympathy, expand his influence, and raise the ceiling of his business. That opportunity arrived on a silver platter. Across the United States, powerful campaigns began pushing for the prohibition of alcohol. Although alcohol was deeply rooted in American culture, factory owners supported the ban, arguing that drunk workers lacked precision and discipline. At first, a temporary ban was proposed, officially to prioritize food production, but soon the calls grew louder. With strong backing from investors, the movement succeeded. In 1920, the Volstead Act was passed, banning the manufacture, sale, and consumption of alcohol. Yet Americans did not stop drinking, they drank more. Capone and his associates immediately recognized the truth. This law had created a new market, a massive black market for alcohol. An underground empire was born. Illegal distilleries were established. Smuggling routes stretched from Canada and the Caribbean. Bars across Chicago were purchased and transformed into secret fronts, selling alcohol discreetly, hidden behind closed doors. The profits were staggering. Capone's earnings were estimated at $100 million at the time, but Capone knew such an empire could not survive without protection. So he bought it. Each month, nearly $500,000 were paid in bribes to police officers, politicians, and influential journalists. Soon, Capone's power surpassed that of the government itself, and for years, the system held. But Capone did not stop at bribery. Sensing public anger toward prohibition, he reinvented himself not as a criminal, but as a businessman. His words echoed throughout Chicago.
I'm just a businessman, supplying a public demand. If I'm breaking the law, then my customers, some of the best people in Chicago, are just as guilty. The only difference is I sell and they buy.
His reputation spread across America. To many, Capone was no longer a gangster. He was a folk hero, a man giving people what they wanted. Alcohol turned from a forbidden substance into a form of entertainment, and Capone's popularity soared to dangerous heights. Soon after, attempts were made on Johnny Torrio's life, which prompted him to worry for his own safety. In 1925, Torrio decided to retire, leaving the gang in the hands of his protege, Capone, who was only 26 years old. This shocked other mob leaders. Capone's elegant appearance set him apart. He did not look like a typical gangster. His famous hat would later become a fashion statement among gang leaders. From that moment, his nickname spread. Snorky, the stylish man everyone should fear. Because while he appeared as Snorky to the public, inside, he was truly Scarface. Problems soon followed. No happy life goes unchallenged. Gangs like the North Side Gang opposed Capone's prostitution operations, claiming they violated Catholic teachings. But this accusation was mostly a pretext. The gang's leader, Daniel O'Banion, portrayed himself as pious, prohibiting prostitution in his territory, while framing alcohol as a socially acceptable trade, to please the church and the government. In truth, O'Banion aimed to embarrass Capone and his crew, and elevate his own status among rivals. Tensions over prostitution, territory, and debts escalated in September 1926. The North Side Gang launched a major assassination attempt against Capone, an attack known as the Hawthorne Hotel incident. And the attempt itself would prove to be one of the most astonishing episodes in Capone's story. Capone was sitting in the Hawthorne Hotel in Cicero, enjoying his lunch, when a convoy of 10 cars belonging to the North Side Gang drove past, opening fire with machine guns on the hotel. Miraculously, Capone survived. His bodyguard threw him to the ground at the last second, saving his life. This attack was revenge for Capone's earlier killing of the gang leader Daniel O'Banion in 1994, but Capone's anger at the remaining North Side members was immense. He organized a series of calculated assassinations, eventually consolidating complete control over Chicago. One of the most infamous acts was when Capone lured 2 of the gang's deadliest killers, men who he knew would have killed him after forming a new alliance, to a lavish banquet. After the meal, Capone personally struck them with a baseball bat, smashing their skulls. This event became known as the Baseball Bat Massacre or the Feast of Death. He did it in front of witnesses, sending a clear warning to anyone considering betrayal. Amazingly, after the killings, Capone arranged his things and went to sleep as if nothing had happened. But Capone's most notorious moment was yet to come. On February 14, 1929, the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre took place. Capone's men disguised themselves as police officers and raided a garage owned by the Moran gang. Moran's men, thinking it was the police, surrendered immediately. Capone's men then opened fire with machine guns, killing 7 Moran gang members. Moran himself survived because he arrived late. But the massacre shattered the power of all Chicago gangs, establishing Capone as the undisputed leader of the city. However, a new problem arose. The massacre made headlines across the United States, shocking the public. For the first time, Americans saw Capone's hidden danger. Yet the government could not charge him as he was in Miami at the time of the attack. This cemented Capone's image above the law, a real ruler of the area, instead of appearing as a public servant helping the people. Capone now became a messenger of death, the nation's most feared enemy, and Capone realized he needed to create a new story. Capone made a strange decision that shocked everyone watching. After an ordinary business dinner, he decided to travel to Philadelphia. When the dinner ended, Capone openly carried a gun and fired shots into the air. When the police arrived to arrest him, he calmly and peacefully turned himself in. Capone was smarter than he appeared. He deliberately chose to go to prison for 1 year on a weapons charge, believing that a single year behind bars would be enough to make people forget everything that had happened on the cursed Valentine's night. On May 16, 1929, Capone was arrested and sentenced to a 4 year in prison. The sentence was carried out in less than 24 hours. During most of his imprisonment, Capone lived in a luxurious cell inside Eastern State Penitentiary. The cell was furnished with leather carpets, heavy wooden furniture, and even a radio. This comfort was bought through bribes that filled every pocket in the city. From behind bars, Capone continued to run his entire criminal empire quietly and in complete secrecy. Capone served only 10 months before being released early for good behavior. When he walked out of prison, he discovered that a global disaster had struck the world, but one that opened a new opportunity for him. What happened was known politically as the Wall Street Crash, or what later became known as the Great Depression. Capone took several actions that restored the public's trust in him once again. During this period, he became known as a man who took from the rich and gave to the poor. He opened a soup kitchen that fed more than 2,000 homeless people every single day for free during the crisis. It was said that without Capone, many elderly people would have died from hunger and poverty during the Depression. It was a brutal time, one that demanded someone to give people hope for another day of survival. For many, Capone became that symbol. In 1930, Time magazine even placed his face on its cover. Capone also secretly rented properties from poor families at prices far higher than their real value, a hidden form of charity, designed so the owners would never feel shame or humiliation. At this point, the situation became so serious that US President Herbert Hoover himself intervened to deal with the Capone problem. Capone controlled all of Chicago, its people, its police, and even its press. Hoover formed a secret council with 3 of Chicago's most powerful men. The first was Walter Strong, publisher of the Chicago Daily News. The second was Frank Loesch, a member of the Chicago Crime Commission. The third was Laird Bell, a famous lawyer, influential politician, and one of the most important figures in Chicago society at the time. At the beginning of the meeting at the White House, President Hoover insisted that the situation in Chicago had become unbearable. Capone and his allies had to be eliminated. Hoover gave top priority to the federal government to reclaim Chicago from the grip of the Italian gangs at any cost. As a result, a special group was formed, the Untouchables. They would become the greatest obstacle Al Capone ever faced. The group was created under the leadership of Eliot Ness, and it would later be known as the most famous law enforcement unit in American history. Formed in 1929, the Untouchables emerged after local police completely failed to control the situation due to widespread corruption and bribery. The group consisted of 10 unmarried young men, aged between 20 and 30 years old. They were given the name the Untouchables because they were completely immune to bribery. Capone himself offered Ness and his men $2,000 per week, equivalent to about $38,000 today. Yet Ness and his team rejected every attempt at temptation, making them an extremely dangerous challenge for Capone. The Untouchables managed to charge Capone with more than 5,000 violations related to illegal alcohol trafficking. They achieved this by attacking Capone's infrastructure directly. They launched sudden raids on breweries and secret warehouses, used demolition charges to break through the gates of fortified hidden headquarters, and dismantled distribution networks across the city. These operations inflicted massive financial losses on Capone, costing him millions of dollars. At this point, the US government realized that Capone had to be fought using his own methods. They needed to create a new hero, one who could ignite public patriotism and rally the people. This strategy severely damaged Capone and his operations. The creation of the Untouchables was not only meant to overwhelm him with charges, but also to destroy his image completely in the eyes of the public. Undermining Al Capone's influence and planting public awareness against the Italian mafia was the primary goal of the US government at the time. All of this, however, was only temporary trouble. The real problem was that the people still hated Prohibition, not Capone. Chicago was not forced to live under Capone's rule. It accepted it, and it had no desire to escape his control. But the solution came from an entirely unexpected place, from a woman no one saw coming. She would become the reason behind the complete destruction of Capone's empire. Just as Capone rose to fame at lightning speed, his power collapsed just as fast. Her name was Mabel Walker Wilbrant, later known as America's First Lady of Law and the chief enforcer of Prohibition. Mabel was a legal mastermind, the brain behind the downfall of organized crime across the United States. She convinced the Constitutional Court that money earned from alcohol should be taxed just like any other income. Yes, her logic was simple and deadly. If we cannot imprison a criminal for being a criminal, then we will imprison him for being rich and not paying taxes. Once the court approved her decision, the government launched a nationwide campaign, hunting criminals under a new charge, tax evasion. And that was it. The government had failed to imprison Capone for murder, failed to convict him for alcohol smuggling, failed even after the St. Valentine's Day massacre. There was never enough direct evidence, but his enormous wealth, with no legitimate source, told a different story. Ironically, this was his downfall. Capone had previously attempted to launder his money by opening milk factories and other legal businesses, but the scale of his wealth was simply too large to justify. There was no believable explanation. Capone was finally convicted, not as a killer, not as a smuggler, but as a tax evader. He was brought to trial over his money, even when Capone tried to repeat his Philadelphia strategy, admitting guilt and offering to pay the taxes. The judge rejected the deal and insisted on a full trial. Capone's final attempt to escape came through bribing the jury, but once again, the law proved smarter. At the last possible moment, the judge replaced the entire jury panel to prevent corruption, and just like that, Capone was finally convicted. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison. Capone's legend did not end with a gang execution, nor with a government firing squad. It ended with a legal strike, delivered by the Internal Revenue Service. The man who once worked as a bookkeeper in Baltimore, calculating taxes for others, was ultimately destroyed by the very system he once served. On October 17, 1931, Capone's journey came to its final conclusion. The judge sentenced him to 11 years in federal prison on 22 counts of tax evasion, covering the years from 1925 to 1929. Capone's lawyers attempted to negotiate a plea deal, 2.5 years in exchange for a guilty plea, but Judge James Wilkerson firmly refused, declaring,
"Federal courts do not bargain with criminals."
Along with the 11-year prison sentence, the judge imposed a $50,000 fine and ordered Capone to pay $215,000 in back taxes, approximately $4 million today, plus interest. It became the harshest tax-related punishment in American history at the time. Capone began serving his sentence at Atlanta Penitentiary. Despite everything, he once again attempted to run his criminal empire from behind bars. Through bribery, he managed to turn Atlanta Prison into a personal luxury retreat. But this time, the government had learned its lesson. They made a final decision to transfer Capone to the most infamous prison in America, Alcatraz, a federal fortress built specifically for the most dangerous criminals of all time, men like Capone. Located off the coast of San Francisco, Alcatraz was designed to be completely isolated, far beyond the reach of influence, money, or corruption. Capone was only 35 years old at the time. In theory, he could have survived his sentence and returned to rebuild his empire, but in reality, his life was already nearing its end. What followed was a slow, silent execution, not of his body, but of his mind. Before reaching the age of 40, Capone was already a broken man. A new story was written, but this time, Capone was not the author, he was the victim.
Syphilis is a dangerous infectious disease transmitted through direct sexual contact between men and women. It is a sexually transmitted disease that often infects the man first, who then passes it on to the woman. In its early stages, syphilis causes small, hard sores to appear on specific parts of the body. These are followed by skin rashes, flu-like symptoms, and severe fatigue. If left untreated, the disease progresses slowly, sometimes over 30 years, eventually destroying vital organs inside the body. In its final stages, syphilis can damage the nervous system, the heart, and the blood vessels, as well as other organs such as the liver, skin, and bones. It can also attack the senses, leading to permanent blindness or deafness.
Capone had been infected with syphilis since the early 1990s, the result of casual sexual encounters with prostitutes. Although treatment was available at the time, Capone completely refused to seek medical help. Strangely, this revealed a deeply human side of his character. Just as he despised the scars on his face and hated being reminded of his Italian origins, there was nothing he feared more than losing the love of his wife, May remained loyal to him until the very end. Capone did not want her to know that he had been unfaithful. She was the best thing that ever happened to him. And so, the disease quietly consumed his body for years. After being transferred to Alcatraz, Capone spent 7.5 years behind its walls. He was finally released on November 16, 1939, due to good behavior and his rapidly deteriorating health. By that time, syphilis had reached an advanced stage and severely damaged his nervous system. His family created a comforting illusion for him, convincing him that his criminal empire still existed. Capone spent his final years isolated in his mansion on Palm Island, Florida, far away from crime and power. By 1946, doctors confirmed that his mental capacity had declined to that of a 7-year-old child. The fate that had been waiting for him for decades was finally sealed. The final pages of the story of the most powerful figure in Italian-American organized crime slowly came to an end. On January 25th, 1947, Capone died after suffering a stroke, followed by pneumonia, and finally, a fatal heart attack. His last breath marked the end of a life that once ruled an entire city. The New York Times published the headline, "The End of an Evil Dream."
The life story of Alphonse Capone stands as a living example of the American dream, a boy born to struggling immigrant parents fighting simply to become part of something greater than themselves. And here lies an important truth. Being righteous does not guarantee that your path will be righteous, and being born into darkness does not condemn you to it. Circumstances place us in certain positions, but it is our choices that reveal who we truly are. Capone's older brother, James Capone, lived under the exact same conditions. Yet he chose a different road. James fought in World War I, earning medals and military honors. Ironically, this heroic war story was the very lie Alphonse later told the world to justify the scars on his face. While Alphonse Capone became the most powerful criminal in America, his brother, raised in the same household, became a true war hero. And although Capone's wife May never betrayed him, she paid a heavy price. For his sins, she contracted syphilis from him, which caused her to suffer multiple miscarriages. In the end, only one child remained, Albert Capone. After Al Capone's death, May withdrew completely from public life, living in isolation until her death in 1986, at the age of 89. In 1932, the film Scarface was released, loosely based on Capone's life. The U.S. government fought fiercely to portray Capone as absolute evil. They even forced the filmmakers to add the subtitle, "The Shame of a Nation." The ending was deliberately tragic. The character based on Capone is violently killed, yet in reality, Capone was never defeated by bullets. Ironically, despite the film's intent, Capone himself admired it. So did the public. The more they tried to demonize him, the more fascinated people became. The suit, the hat, the scars honored mercy. These contradictions were deeply embedded in Capone's image, regardless of his crimes. In the end, the story of Alphonse Capone teaches us that a person's fate is shaped not by circumstances, but by choices, and the American dream was never truly a battle for virtue. It was a battle over who tells the better story.